Hi, I'm Tim, welcome back to the van conversion. In the last video, or a couple of videos ago, we fit the swivel plate on our driver's seat. Today I've got to do the same on the passenger seat, but it's a different design and a slightly different setup. Yesterday I managed to get the driver's side done. For that one I used the CTA swivel plate, that's the brand, and it came in just over £100. Works pretty well. It's a little bit stiff to turn, but that might loosen up. If not, we could perhaps spray a little bit of lubricant on there. Fairly lightweight, I'd say, maybe 7 kilo. So, and it hasn't raised the seat up too much, not enough that we couldn't adjust it back down again to compensate. The one that we're using today is a different animal altogether. This one's the Sportcraft, I think it was Sportscraft brand. It is significantly heavier. It must be 12 to 15 kilo in weight. Seems like a much more substantial build. It came in just under £150, so about 50% more in price and weight. But there's a particular reason why I went for this one, and I'll show you that once it's in. I won't bore you with the process, pretty much the same as the other one for taking off the seat. Just a 6 star type Torx bolts to take out, sliding the seat back and forth to get access to those. We'll take that out and then I'll show you when the plate's in. So I'm down to the seat base, which in these vans, rather than a box, it's kind of an open-sided frame. This is where we're going to be planning to put our leisure batteries, and I think we can get 2 side by side in here. So I'm going to measure up for those before we put the seat on. This is all insulated matting here, so we can gain an extra 25mm if we did want to cut that out. I'm just aware that if we put the plate on here, the terminal's going to be quite close to it. So we need to be extra careful with insulated covers for all those. But if we can get some lower profile batteries in here, that'd be perfect. The vehicle battery's here, so it means we've got that link pretty close, and then we can go off to the unit at the top. Anyway, back to the seat. Putting the base on loosely, I've measured underneath and it does reduce our battery height slightly. So there's a few like sharp edges. We'll have to see how much that affects when you've got the seat in, but with a few bits we might just want to file and round over, or even just put something soft on there. Also, this knob, the lever which you unlock it with, is kind of sticking out into that gangway, so we'll have to wait and see. Let's have a look. Let's get it on anyway. Made in Germany. Actually, it's all in German. Every word is in German. So hopefully the pictures will help. Not really. There's only 8 bolts, we can't go too far wrong. So we'll drop all 6 in, get it all aligned right. And at least we don't have to mess around with nuts underneath this time. Everything's nicely threaded. Good old German engineering. So that's it in place, nice and tight. And that's the unlocking that goes there. That plate there is obviously just like a spring. So I'm not sure if you can see what I mean, but this lever here does stick out, whereas the other one, the CTA swivel, has just got a catch at the front. This one doesn't have a pre-tensioner on the seatbelt, but if it did, it goes down through that hole in the middle, so it pivots without snagging it. The back bolts in now, and there's no reason that when we come to do the batteries underneath that we can't just take the seat off with the swivel plate attached to it. I think that's probably the easiest way, and then we can lift it out carefully, sort the batteries out, and then lift it back on again. Yeah, it's a bit more slick than the other one. Comes around to there, and then like we did with the other seat, it's just so you kind of sat forward slightly. Need to tip it up a bit, catching a little bit on there. I doubt Joe's going to be able to do the tipping. You need quite a lot of weight on these seats in these vans to counteract the spring-loaded adjustment. Let me give you a bit more perspective on what's going on here and why we've gone the route we have. So this is kind of driving position. Now I've folded down the seat here and the spare one is tucked over there, so it's a bit of a mess, but that's where the back seats are going to be, and the table, if you can imagine it, is going to be at that windowsill height coming out 1 metre. So it's coming out to the edge of the second seat there, and in order for us to be able to eat at that, I'll try and spin round. So this one is obviously fine because when it turns around it faces directly opposite. You can lower it slightly and it's pretty much the same height for us to eat, especially with the kids' seats there. Now this seat here, if I was to use a standard CTA swivel like this one, poor old Jo would end up swiveled round kind of on her own there, not being able to reach the table. Now the benefit of this swivel is it's offset, so that centre pivot point is, I don't know, maybe 50mm, 60mm off centre, so that when we spin this one, it kind of spins out into the middle and you end up coming away from the door by a good sort of maybe 100, 120mm, and that means that I think it's going to be fine to eat at the same table. Will allow her to sit at the table with us. Might try and simulate that. Let's find ourselves a cardboard table. So the actual edge of the table will be here, and it'll be quite a bit lower than this. Well, only slightly lower. But I think we are slid as far forward as possible. But I think that's just about manageable to be able to eat at that table for us all to get around it. Potentially, if we put a cushion on those seats once they're folded down, then you could probably sit 3 on there. They're not meant to take weight, the back of those transit seats, but when it's spread out, it should be fine. And like I mentioned in the last video, we're building out the step from the cab, so you've got somewhere to put your feet in. In that, I might put a recessed table leg socket, which means that we could potentially just have like a little round table here, just so that if it's just 2 people using the van, we don't really need to use that big table, and that we can just have a little coffee table here. Or equally, if we've got a bed set up or something here, then you can still have a little table up front. Definitely makes the van feel a lot bigger because basically you're gaining nearly 1 metre of van space because all of this becomes lounge area. We've got those silver blinds, thermal blinds, that black out all of this cab area, so this just becomes sort of part of the van. Loving it. It's all taking shape now. So I'll give you a little look at both of the designs and you can kind of make your mind up on which you prefer. This is the lever that spins with the seat. So the Sportscraft seat, I'm spinning that pretty freely there with one hand. You can see the main plate here at the bottom, nice thick steel, countersunk bolts there, and then the other plate spins with the runners. And like I mentioned, in here this pivot point is offset. And then the CTA swivel, which is, like I said, a little bit lighter weight, really simple design, stiffer to turn. I'm struggling with that one to turn that. There might be some adjustment. There we go, and that's locked in place. Underneath, that's what the Sportscraft seat looks like. Then moving across, this is what the CTA swivel, so you can see that mechanism in there. Again, you've got the top and bottom plate here. Looking down into the middle, this is one of the sticking points really, because that lever on the Sportscraft sticks out. Not a huge amount actually, because there's already some housing here for the seat belt. Whereas on the CTA one, it's that red lever at the front, which you just pull up. But even that's a little, oh no, sorry, you push it down and then spin it. You can just see, feels a lot more quality, that one. Whereas this one, just a little bit less finesse on it. And then last thing to point out, when you're using it in a driver's position, that one thing I noticed is this plate here. This is the swivel seat. It's pretty sharp, that corner there, just where your calf would go up. If you're in shorts, I can imagine catching yourself there, so that might be worth looking at. Underneath, no moving parts at all there, so our batteries should be fine under there, and that is the same situation on the CTA one. It's just got a much bigger hole in the middle. So I don't know if that helps anyone. Quite often when you're looking at these things on a website, it's hard to tell the difference, but from just looking at these two, there is quite a big variation between models. Sportscraft one, much better engineered and much more heavy duty. If you're happy enough to gain an extra 8 or 9 kilo, then that might be the route to go. The other one is nice and simple, and I'm sure with a little bit of lubricant that'll get spinning freely, and it's a really simple low profile one, that one. So there we go, take it or leave it. Next video is going to be cracking on with these cabinets. You can see up here I've trying to make a start on the most awkward describing and everything of this section here. I've also built the top cabinet face frame, and then as you saw in the last video, the fridge is here, the oven arrives today, I've ordered the sink, there's a few more bits to get, and then I can really get started on those units. I've got the beds kind of en route as well, so it's all happening, giving ourselves a couple of weeks to get this all wrapped up. So thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't done already, and remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.